Like and subscribe, and let's get straight to it. Police immunity is unconstitutional and violates the rights of citizens and pretends to protect the rights of citizens. Shooting an unarmed person does not protect the rights of citizens. It does not. It is like a police being called by a person to come and protect them, and they shoot the person they're supposed to protect. It is like a fireman going to a fire and refusing to go in because the house or the building is on fire. It is like a soldier going off to war and refusing to fight because the enemy is on the other side. It is hypocrisy. Let me say this again. A police who shoots an unarmed person is guilty of murder. One, because they have been trained. So we have to assume that once they pass the training, they know what they are doing. Once they pass the training, they know how to read a street address and the address on a house. If they do not know what street they're on, then they have no reason to be on that street. If they do not know what house they are at, if they do not know the address of that house, they have no business being at that house. One must assume that they are trained to know where they are at. One must assume that they can read the street address, the street sign, and they can read the address. One must assume that if they don't know what street they're on and they do not know what street they're at, they will act accordingly. Ignorance of the law does not justify breaking the law. Let me repeat that. Ignorance of the law does not justify breaking the law. It is not an excuse for violating citizens' rights. It doesn't matter whether the citizen is black or white. It does not matter whether the police is black or white. The law, justice, is supposed to be blind. Justice is blind. And ignorance is not an excuse for breaking the law. That has been determined since the word justice was created and laws were made. Since the time laws were made, ignorance of the law is not an excuse for breaking the law. And police immunity does nothing but allow police to violate citizens' rights. And any rights that citizens are to lose should be decided by the citizens and not the legislators. Citizens should be allowed to decide what rights they want to give up and what rights they don't want to give up. Recently, a SWAT team went to a rented house that was being rented by a white woman, And she was there in that city because her baby was sick. And the baby was in the house on a respirator. The police, over a dozen police, broke into the house and just sent, and the baby on a ventilator had to go to the hospital for 10 days. What were they looking for? A 12-year-old kid who had stolen a car. 12 police breaking and entering into the wrong house. All of them should be arrested for breaking and entering, and they should lose their job. Why? They should know what street they're on. They should, in essence, they should know how to read. They should know what address they are at. And if they are at the wrong address, then they should do what? Not act until they are what? Sure of what they're doing. That is part of their training. In fact, they shouldn't have to be trained to read a street sign, and they shouldn't have to be trained to read an address. That is negligence, incompetence, and ignorance, which is not an excuse for violating the law, and they should not get immunity for incompetence, ignorance, negligence. Police are not supposed to be above the law. Plain and simple. Police that are incompetent, negligent, and ignorant should not be allowed to quit before facing justice. They should not be allowed to quit before facing justice. If a person runs over another individual, they should not be allowed to surrender their license and move to another state and get another license. You see, this is also a form of immunity for police, allowing them to quit rather than face the circumstances of their ignorance. Because we can't determine whether that police acted intentionally or out of ignorance. The law is supposed to be blind. I don't see much else I can add to this. I think what I said was logical. And those of you with the ability to reason, I expect you to reason. I will say this in closing. It doesn't make a difference whether a white police shoots a white person or whether a black police shoots a black person or a white police shoots a black person. A black police shoots a white person. Justice is blind. The crime is the same. It is ignorance, it is negligence, it is incompetence, and it is a violation of a person's rights. Police are supposed to be there to protect, and they are paid to risk their lives. They are not called to the scene of crimes to protect themselves. If they want to protect themselves, don't show up. If you want to protect yourself, don't show up. If you don't know what street you're on, you're not sure what house you're at, don't act. Don't act. There is no excuse for ignorance of the law. And when you break the law, you should suffer the full consequences of your actions, whether you are ignorant, negligent, or incompetent. Now, if you have a mental problem, then whoever hired you should be fired and held responsible as an accomplice to whatever insane thing that you do. Like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.